the classroom. And first, I just want you to introduce yourself and maybe tell me where you went to school and places that you've taught and all that.
Gotcha. My name is Dan Welty. I went to Boston University, undergrad and grad, and now I teach in Central Mass at Algonquin Regional High School. I've been there since fall of 2000.
Okay.
I taught two other places before, but Algonquin's where it's at.
So this is the first place you've used flipped classroom, right?
Right. I'm 3/4 of the way through my first year of it.
Okay, yeah, I saw that. I looked at your blog, so I've seen a little bit about that. So most of my questions are going to be geared towards your experience with flipped classroom. And the first question I want to ask is how you came across flipped classroom approach and model.
Yeah, well, I always like to say everything I've learned on Twitter. So I think I started following a few teachers, saw information about flipping, did some more investigative work on that. I followed people's links when they posted links. The biggest thing, though, was the Flip Class Twitter chat that happens Monday nights at 8 o'clock. And so that was great to actually participate in that live chat and hear what people were doing, and then just finding more resources. And it'd be spring of 2013 where I started to pilot it with my honors classes and then some of my college prep classes, and then this is the first full year diving in.
Okay. Wow, interesting. Okay. So why did you decide that you wanted to implement it in your classroom?
I definitely like to try new things, and I think once I saw it could work with the group of students that I had when I piloted it, I think it was just something different. It was having them more active in the classroom. I think I felt, as maybe many teachers do, that you always feel you're a great lecturer, and you can't leave the front of the room and give up that control. But that was something I was kind of ready to do. Just after so many years of repeating the same lesson over and over every period, it was time to hand it over to the students. So.
Yeah. And I guess you probably get this question asked frequently, but what does a typical day look like in your classroom?
Oh, wow. Everything they say about flipping is true, and I love when day by day those things come true for me in my class. It's definitely noisy. Kids are coming in, they're getting their iPads out of the cart, they're flipping them open, and they're starting to get into work on a project that we have. So there's a lot of days where I won't really formally greet the class when they come in. They're kind of self-directed. They'll just sit down, and they'll get to work on whatever we're doing. But it's definitely noisy. Kids are always talking all the time.
Yeah.
Not very different from the traditional kids are quiet teachers up there at the board.
So, okay, so I told you earlier, I've done a little bit of research, and I saw some of your students wrote blogs about how they felt about the flipped model, or flipped classroom, and I saw that they wrote, she said, maybe is it he or she?
We're talking about Alex, right?
It was who?
Alex?
Alex, yes. Alex said that he found it was really successful in your classroom, but he doesn't think it would be successful in all classrooms. And do you agree with this?
Alex is a she, so she.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. The one interesting aside of that, to give you some context for that blog, is I started Genius Hour, which is, I don't know if you're familiar with Genius Hour or not, giving students basically 1 day a week to work on a project of their choosing. So I decided to do it this last term in our high school, in my class, and the first step for that was them setting up a blog where they were going to basically, they would talk about what they did in class that day via the blog. So the assignment was just come in, have your blog set up. That was all they had to do. Well, she got very inspired and just decided to do this whole blog about her experience in my flipped classroom. So it's completely unwhatevered. She has loved the experience. I think I've talked to her more in the last couple of weeks because that blog post got retweeted by John Bergman, who's the pioneer of flipping.
Oh my, yeah, wow.
And she ended up getting about 500 views on her blog.
Oh my gosh.
So for her to become that global citizen all of a sudden, overnight almost, was great for me to see, and totally unplanned. But she definitely has concerns sometimes about, how would it look in another class? She's seen flipping with me and how I do it. And there's been some other students that have had that same concern about, well, what would a flipped English class look like? What would a flipped history class look like? So I think they're interested, but I think there's some hesitation where they see one teacher doing it one way, and they're not sure if another teacher could pull it off in the same way per se.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting because Jonathan Bergman, he was a physics teacher as well.
Oh, chemistry.
Chemistry, science. We read it a while ago, early in the semester. So like, it's interesting because I wonder the same thing as an elementary, like an future elementary teacher, how it would work in my classroom, just because you've seen it work through kind of more of a hands-on approach where it works very well, and I could see that with the English, like how you'd have concerns in an English classroom. So what would you suggest to teachers who are looking to maybe implement flipped learning in a classroom that maybe wasn't as hands-on as science?
Well, I think I always say you have to try one lesson or one unit and really see how it goes. I think it's a very reflective process. When I started, I definitely took care to do it with my honors group first because I knew they would be committed and do the assignments. And they were great about it. So I think to be careful in the way you plan it. I think to research really what it is too. I think a lot of teachers, like it's not just removing lecture to the video. The video is one thing, but it's all of a sudden you have all this class time. And for physics, we could problem solve, but there's a lot more time than that. So you need to make sure you have activities, hands-on things that students are creating during that time. It's almost, when they always say it's not about the videos, they're absolutely right. That's all the work you do, but then you need a plan for what are you going to do for that hour every day, and you have to create those activities to get those kids involved.
And actually make it worth their time for, in the classroom.
Right, because you can't have the kids just sitting there, all right, we did our problems, now what do we do? They want to be creative, they want to talk, and you really need to kind of push that.
Yeah. That makes sense, because when you have that classroom time and you can help them and guide them through, they don't just need to be answering questions or doing the homework that they would traditionally do. Because doing like those in-class activities where you have access, it's all worth it. One of the questions I really wanted to know was how did it go changing your curriculum and having to like make did you just transfer your lectures to video and then?
I kind of did actually. I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years, so my lecture, I knew what my lecture was, and I basically took those same examples, but I don't know if you watched any of them at all.
I actually just saw it's on
YouTube.
YouTube? Okay, I haven't seen them yet, but I'm gonna watch them soon.
I make them on the iPad, but I use the same examples. I wanted to have those be a little more interactive, funny. Justin Timberlake songs playing along in one of my other videos. We just did the last video I had, instead of "What is love?" that song "What is love? What is life?"
Oh, that's awesome.
The kids were listening to it during class, cracking up, and that's a great thing to see them having that fun listening to those things. So that was an easy transfer. It's definitely, I talked to John Bergman a few weeks ago. Actually, I finally met him. And he asked me how many hours I was putting in to do the flip. And it was definitely about 2 to 3 hours after school every day when I first started it. Because I had to make the videos, which I'm still making. I still have yet to make a full year of videos. So it's nice that once the first year is over, that part's kind of done. You can edit things, but that'll be a nice thing that'll be done. But then, I'm spending that time rewriting activities, especially with that I have iPads. How do they go from doing it on paper that I used to do it to a paperless environment, and what can they do on like creating a digital book or a screencast? So that takes a lot of work too in doing all that. But I felt like I was in my first year of teaching again.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because I didn't know that you had iPads. So you're in a one-to-one?
In my room, I'm one-to-one. The
Okay.
school's not one-to-one yet.
Okay, because we visited some one-to-one schools, so we've seen how that kind of works, and it's awesome, and it like just completely transforms, I feel like, education. But so have you this whole year, have you had your iPads with the flipped? And do you feel that it would have been as easy to accomplish without the
Well,
iPad?
it's really complementary to it. I think it can definitely be done without that. I mean, in terms of science, because you can always have labs, you're constantly doing different labs or discussions. But for me, I really wanted to use that technology. When I piloted it, I didn't have iPads the spring of 2013, but I had 24 students and 12 of them had their own iPads, and they were willing to bring them into school. So I was 1 to 2, and I was fortunate they would buy the apps that we needed. They were all in to try it. So to then get that grant to buy a full class set of 25, so every kid has one, and is able to create a screencast, a book, whatever. That's made a big difference because now they have something they can actually use to create things. And that's what I feel a big advantage to flipping is that time where students are creating things.
Yeah. What are some of the apps that you use?
Hold on. Explain Everything is one I use a lot.
We use it all the time. Yeah. We love it. Yeah, we use it for all of our projects in this class.
Yeah, and that's a new skill. You know, kids, my high school kids didn't know how to screencast. They could do PowerPoint and stuff like that, but to then be able to narrate it, animate things on it was great. Book Creator is another one, so they've been making digital books.
Yeah.
What else do we do? Those are really kind of the main two that I use to create things. We've done some of the other screencasting ones, like Educreations, we did here and there, but some keynote presentations.
Yeah.
But those are really kind of the main two.
Those are the main two we use as well. Actually, it's kind of funny. They're good apps, and they help especially explain everything, how you can drag and point, and it's really interactive. So, and then did you have a moment in the classroom, or when you were in the classroom teaching, doing the flipped model, where you were just like, this is it, and this is I know I'm doing, this is how I'm going to teach the rest of my career?
Rest of my life. Well, that definitely happened last spring, because I decided to go all in with every single class this fall. So the first day of school was it was really exciting to have the iPads, to have flipping, and I can't picture, I guess, as a student walking in there, seeing that I had iPads, and then also seeing that the class is going to be quite different from all their other classes in another way.
Yeah.
It was definitely something, a bold move. I'm still the only teacher that has done it for full on at my school, waiting for my first follower to do it, I guess. But I couldn't imagine going back to traditional again.
Yeah.
Seeing the kids be, they're 16, 17, seeing them be so self-directed that they can walk in, pick up where they left off. They can have great conversations with their peers about the physics concepts. I can hear them talking about things. The fact that I can talk to every student every day. And I think Alex even wrote in her blog about how she feels like, she knows I get to know the students in the room a lot better.
Yeah.
All those things are true. It's really magical when you realize that everything you've read about it, it's for real.
Yeah. Oh, it's awesome. I guess one of my last questions is I was going to ask how the other teachers in the school are picking up on it, but then also how is your administration? Do they fully support you and have your
have my back? The administration is great, and I think that would be another part of the answer too if a teacher was going to decide to do it, is make sure your principals, department chairs know what you're doing. I always went to them with my ideas. I showed them student work on the iPads. I was just with my principal today showing him actually Alex's blog for the first time.
Yeah.
And he thought it was amazing that she went international within 24 hours. So those are kind of things that really the admin sees how the benefits that the kids are having of learning. And so I've had their support from day one. The other teachers, I did present to my department, and it was it wasn't that hey, this is great, we're all going to do it. So I think we'll see how it goes in terms of the next flipper in my school, because I think a lot of teachers think it's a great idea. A lot of teachers don't understand it, but everyone's just so comfortable. I think when I taught the first 19 years, I thought I was doing a great job, And I look back now, my 20th year, and I kind of look back and say, now kids are really learning, and I'm really helping them learn how to learn.
Yeah.
It's not just me. It's not one way to them. They're really involved in the process, and they're part of the process. So, I can't imagine going back.
Well, thank you so much. Do you have anything else to say? Any last things up in the classroom?
Last words of wisdom. I don't know, but I think if someone's confident enough to dive in, I say do it. I think you really have to immerse. It's a process you really have to immerse yourself into. And I think as you read more about it, the first year of flipping is one step, but the second, third, fourth year, like, things really change. It really opens the doors to mastery learning, where kids can work at their own pace. I already see that in my kids now, that kids are finishing before other kids. And I've asked a few of my students, I asked them, I said, how would you like being able to choose what day you could take the test? Like, if you were ready Thursday, or if you weren't ready on a Thursday, would you want to take it, say, I'll take it Friday or Monday? They thought that was great, because they said, well, if we have multiple tests on one day, we can say, we'll take physics the next day. Yeah. So they like that student choice part of it. I think the other thing, what was I going to say now? Yeah, I think standards-based grading is the other part too. I think it really gives you a lot more options to explore once you have that class time, and once you can really see how your kids are working individually. So.
I guess, and then it kind of just sparked one more question, is what would you say to a first-year teacher who came out and wanted to immediately start flipping the classroom?
I would say as long as they were prepared. I think as long as it's funny, this whole process really changes what student teaching may look like. Someone like you may want to go into student teaching and say, I want to start flipping. Mm-hmm. And if it's not a flip class already, that's going to be a whole new environment for those students to undergo. Getting a new teacher, and then, this teacher does things totally differently. Yeah. So I think it really challenges kind of the student teaching aspect and the first year teachers. I think as long as, if someone like you would want to do it your first year teaching, I think as long as you prove to your first principals that you've done your research, that you have a plan in place, to really, you want to make sure that they're really confident in you as a first year teacher taking that bold step. But I think a lot of admin would love it, because they really want to bring people in that are going to help the other teachers be better too, and bring in new ideas. So.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Awesome. All right,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care.